watched this movie on Netflix. It's called 365 DNI, and it's this Polish-Italian film, or I think it's just Polish, but it has an Italian actor in the lead. And I watched it because everybody was talking about it on my timeline, and it sounded like a hot mess, and I'm always ready for a hot mess. But this movie was so terrible. It's about this Italian mafia dude who kidnaps this Polish woman because he had a vision or something about how they were meant to be. And then he tells her about how they are going to be together and gives her a year to fall in love with him, and tells her if she doesn't fall in love with him at the end of the year, then he'll let her go, but until then she's his prisoner. And then spends the next hour or so trying to woo her with all these expensive gifts and trips. And of course it works out, and they end up having all this athletic sex all over a boat. And that's the part where everybody was talking about because it's basically softcore. Basically, you know how 50 Shades of Grey was a fanfic retelling of Twilight? Well, this movie is based on a set of books that's a fanfic retelling of 50 Shades of Grey. So it's the same setup, you know, there's a young man who's very hot and very dominating, and we don't really know how he makes his money, except, you know, he's a billionaire. And you kind of see him doing something businessy. And in the case of this particular guy, you know, he's in the mafia, so there's this vague stuff about how he's doing, I don't know, drug trafficking or sex trafficking or something. The movie's not very interested in it and doesn't expect you to be interested either as an audience. But what really got my attention was the number of shopping scenes. Now, it's not odd to have shopping scenes in a book, especially a series that's targeted towards women, but I do feel like of late there's been a multiplication in the number of stories in which the man takes the woman out for shopping and then gets very intimately and elaborately involved in the process of selecting her costumes. There is obviously a long historical precedent for this. It is the kindness and politeness of princes. And I think punctuality is the kindness and politeness of princes. But basically, rich men have had a tradition of gifting valuable things to their women. The most famous example being Henry VIII, who had zero subtlety in how he used this custom. So when Henry fell in love with a new woman, he would shower her with gifts. He would send her impressive jewels, furs, perfumes, things from exotic lands. And then the moment she fell out of favor, he would actually send people to take all of it away from her and then actually re-gift them to his favorite of the moment. Henry Tudor, King of England. Cheap bastard. And then, of course, in modern times, you have Elizabeth Taylor, who is very famous for the number of jewels that Richard Burton bought her. And also, you know, that I think was how most men who she was involved with expressed their affection for her, because that's what she wanted. And you'll see a number of romance novels that follow that line of thought. It doesn't matter if it's a historical or a contemporary romance, there's always this element of rich men who buy expensive things for their beloveds. But in stories such as Twilight and 50 Shades and now 365 DNI, what you see is something a little different, which I think is really particular to the fanfic community, because I've seen a lot of fan fiction stories that have this element more than traditional novels. There's always this element of a man who loves this woman so much that he wants to be intimately involved in every facet of her life, and part of it is dressing her. It's kind of like he's playing Barbie, but with a real life woman. And it's never like, you know, let's go to the local Marks and Spencer's or something. It's always Chanel or something equally fabulous and expensive. They're always hopping on a flight to Paris in the middle of the night, all of a sudden, just because, you know, he felt like giving her a surprise. And I don't know how many of you have been shopping with your significant others, and maybe your significant others are actually good at shopping, but me personally, I would rather stab myself in the eye than have some man tell me what I should be wearing. Unless his name is Tan France. Tan can tell me what to wear. But I know that my reactions to certain things are pretty non-standard sometimes, so I wonder if I'm missing something. Is this supposed to show us something significant about the relationship? Like, he's a billionaire, so most billionaires that I know, not on a personal level, but if you read anything about, say, Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, I mean, these are men who spend all their time working. So maybe it means something that these men are taking time out of their day to go spend money rather than make money. I just don't know what I'm supposed to get out of this, or whether it's just another thing on a continuing path of consumerism. Am I being a killjoy? Let me know. For more videos, please hit the subscribe button.